Moving on, the Palestinian Authority now rejecting the delivery of over 1 million coronavirus vaccines from Israel. And this after just receiving the first shipment of roughly 100,000 doses. Palestinian officials claiming to have been duped because the vaccines are set to expire at the end of June and then later at the end of July. The Palestinian Authority even now demanding an investigation into what they're calling the vaccine scandal. But Israel is insisting that the doses are perfectly sound, identical to those given to Israelis, and that anyways, the Palestinian Authority knew full well about the pending expiration dates. In fact, officials earlier announced that this was kind of the point. According to the agreement reached with Pfizer's involvement, Israel would provide over 1 million vaccines to the Palestinian Authority and in return receive the PA's shipment of Pfizer vaccines, which are scheduled to arrive in September. This way, Palestinians could get vaccinated sooner and Israel could restore its stocks at a later date. So why cancel the deal? Well, joining me to discuss is CEO of Honest Reporting, Daniel Pomerantz.
The Palestinian Authority has the right under international law to accept or refuse aid. Israel has the obligation to respect the Palestinian government's autonomy. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with expiration dates. On our staff, one of our editors, Kiva Van Koningswald, working with our managing editor, Charles Bibelser, revealed that just last Friday, the Palestinian Ministry of Health announced that it has the capacity to vaccinate at the pace of 80,000 shots per day. That means that the full 1.4 million doses that Israel is offering could be administered in 17.5 days. Khaled Abu Toameh, a Palestinian-Israeli journalist, wrote this morning in the Jerusalem Post that when the Palestinian government announced this deal, you'd think Palestinian people would be happy. The Palestinian street exploded with objection. They said it was a scandal. They said it was normalizing the occupation, which is a phrase that refers to recognizing Israel's existence at all. And they demanded that the Palestinian Authority back off of this deal, which is exactly what the Palestinian Authority
Could
did.
the Palestinian Authority have not explained that receiving vaccines from Israel doesn't normalize anything, really? Or does it?
Well, it does because it shows that the Palestinian government is interacting with what they refer to as the Zionist entity.
Well, they do that anyway with security control and certain administrative governance.
They try to do it in a way that isn't terribly public. They try to hide that as much as possible so that people don't realize that it's happening. It's very hard to avoid the knowledge that it's happening. It's being done both with Israel and through Pfizer. It's a major international deal. And for the better part of a year, the Palestinian government has been telling Palestinian people that any medical help that comes from Israel is poison and is designed to harm Palestinian people. So if that's the information that you have, it wouldn't be surprising or even unreasonable to be a little suspicious of help coming from Israel, which your own government has been telling you up until now could potentially be poisonous. What we've heard in the mainstream media is all these claims about vaccine apartheid and that Israel won't give Palestinians vaccines when, in fact, the Palestinian government was denying those vaccines. The discussion today is that Israel gave the Palestinians vaccines that were nearing expiration without explaining what that means. If the vaccines are going to expire something like 5 weeks after they can all be completely used, that's not nearing expiration. That's like saying a baby is nearing old age because every day that baby's closer to old age, but it doesn't mean that baby's actually close. These vaccines are nearing expiration, but it doesn't mean they're near.